go at least man Maria 1 2 1 2 couldn't get from me.
Because these days you cannot be too sure.
No, that's true.
You ask, you say, oh, I can't speak. You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, let's settle for the conversation. But the frog element, the science part got me.
You see, it's funny. I feel like we could spend like the rest of the time actually talking about that news and the facts, because the plastics thing.
Yes.
Just like you said, if in America, if they're in the seas around North America, they are finding fish with these microplastics, then you can imagine ours is. And I don't think anybody has really looked into it. Some of the research has been just about the amount of plastics that is in the sea,
that's true,
but not to actually look at the microplastics in the fish that we are then eating.
And the microplastics are all around us, even with our chopping boards.
Chopping boards, the plastic ones. Yep. Sometimes it's found in air particles.
Yeah.
And
the packs we put our food in.
Yes, especially the styrofoam ones.
And then we microwave.
The microwave. I mean, it's everywhere. Can you now imagine it's been in the fish you are eating as well? And you see, a lot of the time we are seeing uptake in certain disease conditions, and we are still trying to figure out
what exactly
what is it, why all of a sudden in the last 20 years there's
a surge.
And for all you know,
this could be it.
All
right. Well, I hope everyone is taking note. We've got some tips in there as well, so be mindful of what you're eating. And EP is up to some good things as well. We hope that the necessary backing will be giving it, so that we can get our waters to become clear again. Yeah,
I think a lot of people in the academic community are really keeping an eye on EPA, just because it's one of our people there.
That is there.
So it will be great to see her succeed and just be an example of what happens when you put the right people in the right places.
Yes, I mean they appreciate the magnitude of the suicide we are committing.
That's a nice way to put it. This is suicide.
Well, let's talk about the year 2025 and some of the key scientific and technological trends that Ghana should prioritize in this year.
All right. So I think 2025 has started off really nicely. With us, like in country, everybody who was doing these normal projects around neglected tropical diseases. I'm aware of some people that have got their funding renewed, so that work is still ongoing. But of course, in this year, you can't really talk much if you don't talk about tech and AI stuff. And I think that's where a large or up-and-coming people should really try and put their attention towards, because yes, we are far away from designing our own sort of like AI that we can engage with, like your ChatGPTs and so on. But being able to utilize them effectively to then also streamline what we do, I think that's where a fair amount of research.
So that's for you when it comes to focus and prioritization. That's where you think we probably should be looking.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be looking at it as in making one of our own. We should rather be looking at it as in how can we embed this and integrate into existing systems and things effectively, so that it's actually making life easier for us.
What about areas that government can better support?
Right. The easiest one that people always say is just create a sustainable environment. Just create the environment, create the ease. And this is why for some times you probably won't hear researchers complaining a lot, because it's like, okay, at least you've covered my salary. So let me now go and try and do the work and look for the money. So creating this enabling environment, putting out more government-led sort of like funding initiatives or grants where people who have great ideas and so on can apply to it and then get funding to execute. Some of those were put out last year, so being able to see more of that, where it's not just people in academia as well, right? But people in industry can then also tap into. What will really be best is to create a funding mechanism that will force academia and industry to put together a joint application and give them 3 to 5 years, of course, with yearly sort of like benchmarks to be able to reach. Something like that can really then mean that if government decides, for example, this 24-hour economy thing, the reason why there was a lot of conversation about it is because people are wondering how it's going to work out. But if it had been something that's research backed, then you had like some economic researchers and some humanities researchers that had
Yeah.
been working on this for the last 3 years, then it's clear how it's going to happen, right? So
Yeah.
something really industry, academia collaborations, if government can create streams that can channel that and make that happen, that'd be great.
One of the things that have also come up there, the areas for conversation is, green energy, green transition. This time there's a ministry, so there's the energy ministry has, in addition to it,
Yeah.
green transition. What role do policies play in nurturing renewable energy projects, and what steps should the government take to accelerate the adoption of green technologies? And I asked this in relation to we now having a ministry that has a green transition element to it.
Yeah, I think that's such a solid move on the government's part. Last week when Justina was mentioned, she alluded to that as well, because then it at least sends a message that, okay, we are interested in this.
Yeah.
And that then means people who are already working in that sector, your industry players who
Yeah.
like solar taxi in Kumasi, so and that are already doing like electric vehicles, right? And those who are trying to make sustainable and affordable solar panels and so on, know that, okay, so there's a ministry that is then interested in this. It probably then makes it easier to try and engage. What will be really clear, and I think what I'd love to see from this ministry, is clear direction. Okay, we want to have a green component to what we do. What is the roadmap? Because if not, it's just talk. And that's the thing, like, people get tired of just talk very
Sometimes you
easily.
throw things out there.
Yeah, but if you have clear line, like, okay, so in line with this, we are going to make sure that over the next 5 years, 10% of government vehicles are electric. That's an approach. I'm not saying that's what they should do. It may not be that feasible, but I know that's definitely an approach. Just something very clear. All these new housing that are coming up, 50% of it should have solar panels in it. We have a financing scheme to make sure that you can afford the solar panels and make sure that you're at least taking some load off the grid. Having very clear, tangible things that we can all look back on and say, okay, when this ministry was introduced, this is what they did, right? And we can see that and everybody can work with it. That'd be nice to see.
Okay, when it comes to tech entrepreneurs among others, what kind of support should government also be giving to those kind of startups and groups?
I'm glad you asked that question because probably over the next few weeks we will have some tech entrepreneurs in the room. Because me being in academia and only sort of like relating with tech entrepreneurs, there's only so much I can say from their conversations. But a lot of it boils down once again to enabling environments, right? Not just all talk. You have tech entrepreneurs that, of course, are on the ground doing the work, have done their budgeting and so on. And then because of economic factors outside of them, things that they are important have now shot up in value, dollar rates and so on. It'd be nice to then see intentional action from government saying, well, if you are a tech entrepreneur within X number of years of funding, get some form of rebates, get some form of exemptions on the import duties and so on. Because what's the point of only certain government infrastructure enjoying these things when you're having the tech ecosystem being largely built by players who are not in government, right? So I think having conversations around that will be great to see. But anybody who's interested over the next few weeks, we'll have the tech people in here. Let them come and hear from the horse's own mouth what they want.
And that's very important. So in relation to that as well, getting their product onto the market. Some of them are able to, come up with very innovative products, but, getting the support to put it on a commercial level is usually where the challenge really is for many.
Yeah. I think last year, for a number of times, we had the guys from UMAT over here, and they, whenever the guys from UMAT are here, you see that, this is a great innovation, it has great application, but the huge chunk of money that's needed to cross that barrier and get it onto the market and sustain it for a number of years so that it becomes sort of like able to stand on its own feet, that needs some serious backing, which many individuals cannot get done.
Let's talk about international collaborations and partnerships as well. What do you expect government to do in relation to that?
I think it comes one again to making it easier. So I'll give a personal I'll give you a personal story here where I needed some equipment from an international collaboration I had with some colleagues in South Africa, and just had equipment that was being donated in. The hassle I had to go through to be able to...
Donation?
It was a donation, right? A donation. What I had to go through to clear it it's another story for another day. But you see, just making some of these things very streamlined and very easy, so that if I'm in an international partnership and we're working collaboratively towards something, just make it easy. Not say do the work, not say even pay me for it or pay, but just make it easy. So when people need documentations, that's streamlined. Where people need access and confirmations, all of that just straightforward.
And it reminds me of the time where I think there was a donation in relation to medical supplies.
Yeah,
for
the HIV.
Yes, and there had to be a whole back and forth about government intervening because it was supposed to be they were to pay something.
And see,
it can be very discouraging.
If it was a very straightforward, clear system that was there, then the government doesn't even need to come and step in, because this is the process. If you have this sort of thing, clear it this way, that way, and you make sure it's an easy process. Because how do you let something that's been donated sit down for all that while? Like, what value are you placing on it?
It doesn't even send a good, impression about you, because this is something you're not footing the bill. Someone has footed the bill, and so yours is just to assist for it to get to the people that actually need it. Most of them, who are even neglected, first of all.
Yeah.
And so it's quite problematic. What about policies? What policies need to be enacted to ensure that the benefits of technological advancements reach all sectors of society?
That will really be...
Including rural communities.
I like that you said that, because I was about to say that will really be a very long-term, very hard to achieve thing, because things reaching down to rural is going to be a while. So before even me proposing any of those, what I would like to say in response to that question is, let's go back to the books. Okay. Let's go back to the books to see what is already there. Because oftentimes I find that at one point in time, a lot of brilliant people have been brought together and paid a lot of money to put together a very good strategy. Right. And then it's sitting down, and 4 years, 5 years later, we all forget such a document existed, and then we repeat the cycle. So I think a good approach would be to let's go back to really do an audit. What do we have on plan? And pick it one at a time. Because, yes, that's just the way to go to measure these milestones.
And, taking from that point, what can we do as a country, to position ourselves as, a market leader when it comes to technology? Especially, we can start with our continent. Africa. What can we do?
So if we give an example, we mentioned like solar taxi, for example, right? That they've been doing the electric vehicles, and just a few days ago, I saw that you have a company in Burkina Faso that's also doing the same thing, and you just wonder, okay, how could solar taxi, for example, have been supported in such a way that they now started having reach, all right? So that even before the Burkinabés were able to now do this, for example, they'd already penetrated that market. So with that as sort of like the foundation to answer the question, it then means just promoting, right? And I think, yes, in all fairness, I think over the last few years, we've seen a little bit more intentionality about promoting, just trying to make Ghana seem like the best place ever, and we have the best things ever. I think that needs to be fairly acknowledged. But of course, there's no need to then rest on our laurels, right? If we're doing that, just promote, sell the story, have good PR around it. Because in terms of the work and the quality of what's been done, we have the capacity.
We have the capacity. And, there's a lot of the time we talk about STEM. There's a lot of work also being done in that area. The previous administration constructed STEM schools, among others. How do we, spread it more to encourage more people or more students to get onto STEM, and then eventually it feeds into how innovative we are also going to be as a country.
I love that. And you see, that's your 10 o'clock alarm, right? It's a good way to, for us, I guess, lead towards it. For starters, I was just wondering, like, the STEM schools, I always wonder why.
Why?
Yeah,
You
why?
don't think you should have a separate school? It should have been in all the schools, rather.
Yeah, like, why are you building a STEM school? Because you have schools all across the country. You have teachers all across the country. 10, 15 years ago, this idea of picking some certain subjects and showing the cohesion between them and the direct application became innovative, and everybody starts doing that. Then now you decide to build a school based on that principle. Why? When the teachers could have been trained, when they could have been tooled out. So now you just have hot spots where now you're going to support and finance these schools. That means there's only people that can go to these schools that will then really fully benefit, whereas it could have been spread out to slowly raise everyone up. So maybe there's something that is known to others which is not known to me, but yeah, that wasn't the way to go. That being said, the way to then go will start from something that, for example, the Ghana Science Association, we try to do, which is capacity building for the teachers.
Okay.
Because whichever way you look at it, your children are spending 8+ hours under the tutelage of these teachers. If they are excellent, it will just pass on. So teacher capacity building. Then as excellent as the person is, if you put Lewis Hamilton in my car and then you put me in a Formula One car, I'm sure I will beat him any day, right? So as excellent as the teachers is, if they don't have the resources,
yes,
it's not going to happen. So I think those would be the first two things. Capacity building for teachers, resourcing them. And the Ghana Science Association at least tries to do the capacity building side. There's not much we can do about the resourcing side. And then the last component I will say will then be making it an everyday thing.
Okay.
So you don't go to one new school in some corner, be somewhere to go and experience STEM. It's an everyday thing.
It should be all around us.
All around. You go to school, doing activities time, it's there. You come home, there's this TV show on practical activities. At the weekend, the local library, the libraries we have all across the country could be running STEM clubs at the weekends. Just things like that. So that there's multiple opportunities to just touch and engage. Each time you learn something new and to push the needle, rather than fixating on one huge edifice or activity to sort of move the needle.
And we'll be wrapping up shortly. What kind of strategies should government roll out to ensure that there's effective collaboration between industry, universities, and all the in terms of the production chain, there is some form of collaboration to have effective, innovative ideas or innovations that go to the core of the need of the people, essentially will serve a certain need.
Right. I will give an example of something that's happening with the association, and then you'll see how the answer is drawn from there. Which is to say, in recent years, what has happened is when we had new national executives come in, they presented a plan of what they wanted. And then they asked all the various branches to propose what they're going to do, which then feeds into the plan. And then there are quarterly reports or just an update meeting, nothing huge and big. But you must give an update every quarter in line with it. And of course, a yearly full report. What this means is whoever is in charge creates, this is what I want to do. Everyone specifies where they feed into it, and then we check to see if you're doing it or not. And I think that's the way to go. So Justina said she couldn't be here because they're having a meeting at the ministry, which is in line with this. So having sort of things along those lines, make very clear, call in as many stakeholders as possible, make sure the right people are in the room, and everyone then feed into it, and make the information easy to access. So an online space as well where if I wanted to find out about a certain product, I know which research institute could potentially be working on it.
Exactly.
I know how they feed into the next thing. It shouldn't be all cloak and dagger. You need to go dig through some documents at the ministry to find out who to see, or you need to know someone. Like that's not helpful. Yeah.
Finally, what specific actions should the government take to ensure that scientific and technological advancements are inclusive and contribute to overall economic development in the country?
Great. I will start from the research officers at the universities. Many of the research officers at our universities, at least I can speak for the older ones, have a plan about how they can pick research and translate and make sure that it actually impacts people. So I would say one of the great things I'd love to see government do is reach out to these research officers and be clear to say, okay, how do you plan on doing it? Then this way, government has all the pieces together, and they can come together, and with this much broader overview, which many of us are not privileged to have, they can then start piecing it together to make sure that we are all being inclusive and collaborative towards what we're working.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Doc, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Joining us on the horizon. We usually see you in the beginning of the year.
This year you see me. You see me more.
We only see the beginning of the year, but you're saying that this year will be different.
Yes.
We'll see you a lot more. So we look forward to it.
All right.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very
talking
much.
to you. You had us engage Dr. Thomas Amate Tego. He is the Accra branch president of the Ghana Science Association, and he joined us on the Horizon segment. We're just about wrapping things up.